Call this meeting of the Halstead City Council to order. Is there any agenda changes that need to be made?
None from staff tonight, Mr. Mayor.
I was wondering if we wanted to talk about the snow and snow removal, since we just
At
had
the
this
end of the
storm.
meeting,
Okay.
we make our comments. The public forum is open at this time. If anybody would like to speak from the forum. Doesn't appear like anybody wants to talk to us. Consent of agenda, ordinance number 2026, AP02, bills and payroll from January 13.
Mr. Mayor, after reviewing the consent agenda and bills and payroll as submitted, if there are no more questions or discussion, I would make a motion to approve them as submitted.
By consensus?
Yeah.
Good, me too. You don't have to vote on it that way.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And the minutes from the January 12th city council meeting.
Mr. Mayor, George's motion should cover.
Cover that too? Unfinished business. City council AV equipment update.
You just have the proposal from CTI and passing out an email to you all that we received from one of the vendors that we were planning to reach out to with just the transition of the year. We have not yet gotten alternate quotes, but as you could tell from our kind of late start, we continue to see issues with the components. Again, just going back of the reason we went with CTI was because they installed the original system and who we've been working with for 6 years on our AV equipment. I share this vendor's concern too of, we did, when we discussed this 2 weeks ago in this packet, have publicly put out basically CTI's proposals, which does put them at a disadvantage. We still will seek out those proposals if you want us to, for the components. It's just, I understand with the cost of the project and whatnot, why that request was made. It's not typically how we've spec'd out projects that we've gone to bid for. We asked them to solve a specific problem and that was their solution based off of their knowledge of our equipment. So, guess just making sure you guys still want us to go out and get the alternative quotes for AV in this room.
Ethan, can we, even if somebody comes in and it's a little bit less, if we feel like it's desirable to pick these, that we don't have to pick the lowest
No,
bidder, correct?
correct.
I guess after I went through and I looked up every piece of equipment they suggested. There's a couple things that are popping out. One is, if I've got a furnace at home and it's not under warranty, I'm not gonna go out and buy a new furnace. And I feel like a lot of our equipment, that's kind of the approach. In what I'm seeing, I think we need more microphones. Microphones weren't even mentioned in this. It was asked, but it's not part of their proposal at all. They've got a lot of upgrade is what I would call a lot of it, because there's a lot of encoders, decoders, which is like $8,000, an AV switch, and I think our the switcher and the power supply seem to be some of the issues. It's where I think what we need is somebody to address the parts that are problematic. They've got an amplifier in here, which I don't understand why in the world we'd need a new amplifier. It's for these speakers, and amplifiers are pretty rock solid, and to spend $800 for a new amplifier for speakers that we hardly hear anyway. It just seems really excessive. An AV processor, again, I'm not sure what that's gaining us. There was a touchscreen controller, and then there was a, which I was really surprised at. It was a big mixer controller, which we don't have anything like that now. And some of this equipment is so, you almost need a sound engineer to run. And so I'm looking at some of this, and like, you've got the equipment, but then they'll get to these, the labor plan, the consulting, the engineering, the commissioning on site, the installation on site, the project management, the commission in-house, the travel. It's like 3,000, 4,000 per, and so the grand total of just those consulting, to me, some of those fees are just staggering. Because it just feels like we've got a couple components that are twitchy that we need addressed. We don't need a whole complete system rebuild. We don't need to pay for the amount of the engineering. I think it was like 15 hours worth of engineering. What exactly are they engineering? Some of this just feels to me like this is a company, they do this. I get the feeling we're a very small entity for them. And this is one of the smallest systems, and they're just kind of taking advantage. Like, this is what they do. This $800 amp, I literally have an amp I just bought that is just like it, that I spent $135 for. And I didn't buy a cheap one. I bought one that works, that does the job. So some of this just feels like it's so top of the line and overkill for what we need. I'd like to see just a quote that comes and says what's broken, what needs fixed, and move on, because this system isn't that old. This should last much longer. And just because things are out of warranty doesn't mean time to replace it all. So I just like to see adding a couple backup microphones, fix a couple of the broken parts, see how much that costs. Because I'd like to think it'd be around the $1,000, $2,000 mark, not $40,000. Because I'd rather use this money for increasing people's pay, or, there's just much better ways I think we could spend that
The
money.
only thing I can remotely, and you can speak better to this than I can, the only thing that I can remotely think of that would be driving the cost is possibly some of the components not compatible with the new stuff. That's the only thing that I can think might be an issue, but that might not even be the case.
I really don't think so. I think a lot of it is like, I'd love to sit down with one of these guys and talk to them. And it's like, why do we need all these encoders and decoders? Like, the system's in there and the deal's there. We don't have to spend $4,000 for these to communicate if we can just drop a line. Like, some of this just feels like it's upgrading for upgrading's sake. So that's my opinion on it.
So it's,
Are they considering I'm just asking because I don't know. Some of the other rooms that we have as meeting rooms, is
No.
it tied into that at all?
those
That's,
are standalone.
this is standalone.
Yeah, this was just for the council, and again, there are three different components mentioned in their quote, which could be phased in. The largest one they recommended to address the issues that we've been calling them for was the production switcher. And Pat, please correct me if I'm wrong, because you met with them more.
Yeah, that's usually the one thing that shuts it down completely, yeah.
Well, I'm all for looking at alternatives, because when I first seen it, I thought, man, this looks a little staggering.
To do that every 6 years.
Not that I'm an expert on it at all, because I'm not, and I'll admit it. I'm just, it'd be nice to have some alternatives to
Well,
this.
do we want, Ethan, then, do we wanna just
I mean, I
bring
don't,
them in,
yeah.
have them visit with us, and
Yeah.
one evening, and we can, sounds definitely more familiar with these things than I am.
Yeah.
I do with that, yes.
I would like to have Roger look at what he thinks we need and go out for a quote on those items. And,
I don't know if I'm that smart. There's a couple of those, you know, in talking with Pat, that I think are definite. They're the ones that seem to be problematic. Let's get somebody to come in and look at that. It's like they came in and they're like, they're AV guys, right? I know a lot of AV guys. They're super excited. They love to spend your money. It's like, I think once
if
you
you
kind
thought
of,
you could narrow it down to,
Right.
we
Once they
want
know
a
they're not
quote
coming-
on a replacement, this, and this.
yeah.
And that's all. That's all we want. And see if they'll still talk to us. Some of these outfits, they'll quit answering the phone after you do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, I guess then that would be a good sign we're dealing with the wrong outfit.
Yeah. Cause
I would like to see that versus a $40,000 bill.
Because I'm really curious about this whole, the CTI Complete, they're, like, why are we paying for this if it's not seeming to be covered, if it's not covering the components? And why are we paying for this whole package if there's, you know, the $15,000 worth of engineering and project management? It just feels like we're triple dipping over the same thing. It's like, what's the point of us paying this sort of extra fee for them to evaluate this if we're still paying for engineering and everything else? It's a weird system, in my opinion. So, yeah, it'd be nice to visit with them, have it explained.
Do you want to table this issue until you let us know you've got somebody lined up, Ethan?
Yep.
Mr. Mayor, with that, I would, unless there's no more discussion or we have to continue, but if not, I would make a motion to table this topic item until a later date.
Second.
Very good. New business, K-Camp presentation.
Vote on that. You made the motion.
Well, we're just voting to talk to them. Really just need a consensus to,
We just need, you just need our,
really just need a consensus to talk to them.
okay, I'm sorry.
That was an action item.
Yep.
Of course, it's just solicitors updates. I'd do it as a vote.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You guys are good. K-Camp presentation? Yes, sir.
No, I'll be quiet, I promise.
It did seem like you would need to pipe it on it. Go ahead.
Good evening to everyone at the council. Thank you for having me. My name is Patrick Smith. I am the risk manager at K-Camp. And at K-Camp, we like to personally recognize all of our members that have the lowest loss ratio over a course of a 4-year period. City of Halstead is one of those members. Now, we know you can't reduce or prevent all property loss and liabilities, but we do appreciate the steps that the City of Halstead has taken to reduce the risk of property loss and liability-related claims that are normally reported to K-Camp. So, we would like to present this check in the amount of $500 as an appreciation, as an appreciation of your continued membership with K-Camp and the steps that you guys have taken to reduce the risk of property loss and liability that's normally reported to K-Camp. So we thank you for your due diligence. We appreciate all the steps that you've taken to help minimize the cost of coverage for K-Camp members as a whole. We also have an annual meeting book in here as well of basically goes over a lot of the topics that were discussed at the annual meeting also. since I have the floor, also, I just want to go over a few of the services that we also have. I don't know if you guys have taken advantage of our risk avoidance grant. It's oh, you have? Okay. It's a $2,000 grant that we give to our members on an annual basis for the purchase of any type of, well, it's a reimbursement of the purchases for anything that reduces the risk of property loss and liabilities. So it can be like backup cameras for vehicles, grill guards, repairs to electrical boxes. We have a whole list of things that you could use it for, anything that's going to reduce the risk of property loss and liability. We also have a risk of, or it's not risk, but a risk achievement award. That's what it is, risk achievement award. And this basically gives you 3% back of your contribution for a bunch of criteria to complete, such as risk management, quarterly risk management meetings. We have training for staff, services. There's a bunch of criteria that you can use, but you can get up to 3% of your contribution back. So that's another check just to keep in mind. So we have all this stuff listed on our website, or you can just contact our office and ask for me. We'll be happy to assist you with whatever questions that you may have. So anybody else have any questions as of right now? Very well. Well, thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming.
Yes.
Okay, nice to meet you.
Nice to
Thanks,
meet you
thanks
too.
for helping me out on everything.
Is that Patrick?
Yes.
Okay, well, thank you for coming.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me. Could you sign?
You can bring money anytime.
Yeah.
We love
Find other ways to come back here. Thank you very much. Everybody have a good evening.
Thank you.
Careful. As a local resident and taxpayer.
Moving on to the asset forfeiture, fund annual report.
Thank you. Included with your packet was the 2025 Asset Forfeiture Fund Annual Report as presented to all of you. There was no activity in 2025, and the police department has also done their annual report and filed with the KBI per state statute. So just on all of these going forward on these annual reports is just that you all are aware, and motions to accept and file them are most appropriate.
Ethan, just for the sake of people knowing what that means, the forfeiture
So-
part, I know what it means,
Yeah,
but
asset,
some people don't.
asset forfeiture would be legal proceeding, and I would actually, Josh could probably explain it better than I, but essentially during certain law enforcement actions, if property is identified that would meet those criteria, it can be seized. It's a legal process, goes through a lot of checks and balances, that goes into a segregated fund within the city and then has very specific purposes it can only be used for should those forfeitures be approved by a court. So,
And that moves us to the opioid mitigation fund annual report.
oh, we need a
We need
motion.
to
have
accept
to-
this.
Oh, we do?
Yes, we
Mr.
do.
Mayor,
Okay.
motion to accept and file the 2025 Halstead Asset Forfeiture Annual Report as presented.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And that moves us on to the opioid mitigation fund annual report.
Thank you. Same in your packet is the opioid mitigation fund. These funds come specifically from opioid settlements that the state of Kansas enters into. The city opted to participate back when we had the ability to opt into those. And so we did. And you have basically the annual accounting there of any receipts and expenditures from that fund. We so far only have receipts into that fund. For 2025, it was $3,653.24. Very much like asset forfeiture, it's very narrowly defined what the city can spend those funds on. It has to be related to opioid remediation or mitigation within the community. So we had no expenses this year from that fund. And you have the annual report there, and we will get that signed and sent to the state as soon as you all approve it.
Do we have a motion to accept that?
Mr. Mayor, motion to accept and file the 2025 opioid mitigation fund annual report as presented.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 So I have a quick question on that. So it says at the end of last year now, we've got 16,000 plus. Is this just gonna keep growing, because there's so few things that we can spend it on, and we appear not to be a community that has a big issue here?
I mean, it will grow until we begin to spend it. I mean, there's various, aspects. We don't have the need of, like some communities, we could use it to buy naloxone, you know, that kind of thing for our emergency services departments. Thankfully, we don't utilize that on a routine basis. But, I mean, there's been more talk and, you know, like countywide or, certain organizations like MIR and things, looking at the programs they're doing, that would qualify.
A lot of the communities have gotten really creative with how they expend it. For example, if they've got a local setting for youth, you know, a place where they can gather, keeps them off the street, keeps them from having any potential temptation to utilize this sort of thing. And they've stretched it that far, and there's a lot of those kinds of things out there that they have begun to look a little bit more in terms of auditing. There are examples that were ridiculous in terms of how it was expended, but you can use it for a lot of different things now that at one time it wasn't that expensive, so.
Okay, thanks. Seems like it's a decent amount of money in there now, and if it, yeah, might just need to be creative.
Moving on to the Halstead Land Bank Annual Report.
Thank you. That was also included in your packet and hopefully looks very familiar to you all from the land bank meeting earlier this evening. Again, just showing the balance of the land bank fund, which at the year end of 2025 sat at 25,162. 217 Main Street went into the land bank in April of 2025 and came out of the land bank in October of 2025. So the land bank still has no active properties within it at this point. And you all need just a motion to accept and file that report.
Do we have a motion?
I motion to accept and file the 2025 Halstead Land Bank Annual Report and Property Inventory.
All those in favor, say aye and raise your right hand.
Aye.
Aye.
And that moves us on to employee market wage adjustment. This sounds important.
So the city of Halstead for at least since 1999 has done an annual across-the-board employee market wage adjustments, typically factoring in data specific to the Midwest region and cost of living. For this year, December to December, CPI was 2.7% for the Midwest CPI. The link there was in your packet to the Bureau of Labor and Statistics information. And then national CPI was also right around 2.7%. Staff recommendation is for city council to consider a 2.5% wage adjustment across the board, applicable to all employees not on a probationary status.
This doesn't affect their merit. This is just
Yeah, this just applies across the board.
So there's a merit raise that all the employees get in addition.
yeah, based on,
Performance.
Employees, yep.
their performance.
All employees also have an annual performance review where they're eligible for merit based on their individual performance.
And we came up with 2.5, how?
based off the 2.7% of the Midwest CPI.
Why not 2.7?
We can do that. We're just 2.5, and that leaves the remaining 2.5 in the total 5% that was in the budget for merit. So,
Oh, okay, that was confusing me. So there's 5%
yeah,
that's in the budget, 2.5 would go automatically, 2.5 is what could be added on based on merit.
correct, yeah. So when we budget and pick a salary adjustment number overall, typically we try and guess around what we believe CPI was going to be, but then the remainder would become merit. So last year, CPI ran a little higher, so the merit pool, got decreased because CPI came, we gave 3% when it was 2.9. So that's how we've tried to balance that between the two parts of the pendulum of cost of living versus, but also wanting to make sure that merit is still a meaningful incentive.
Are you suggesting 2.7?
I want to hear what the council has to say about it. I was
So
really,
what we would have left is 2.3 for the merit increase. Later down the road, so, now or later,
I've never seen the COLA go backwards.
no.
I have an intimate experience in this particular subject, having worked here for many years. I don't think it would be that big a deal to change it to 2.7 and just go with the deal. Because usually the merit raises, sometimes it could be that much, but very rarely that I have seen. So, based on that, so I would say 2.7 would be a fair deal to go. If staff feels comfortable with that.
I don't think we're talking much.
No, not.
It's small enough.
We just need a motion then.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve a 2.7% increase to base wages for all full-time city employees who are not on a probationary status, effective with the pay period beginning January 10th, 2026.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye and raise your right hand.
Aye.
Aye.
It carries. Okay, so that I don't forget what I was talking about. Going to move to the mayor's requests, policy decisions. And I'm sure that all of you heard in the news in the last week and a half, that Harvey County passed a moratorium on data centers. And I would like to hear a discussion about Halstead proper passing, and I don't think we need to, if in the future, this technology becomes something that we need, a future council could easily get rid of a ban. I would like a discussion on just banning the data centers in Halstead proper.
I'm opposed to a ban without zoning people having a chance to look at it and weigh in. The other thing is, I'm of the mind, my neighbors are of the mind, if you're gonna ban something, we all need to vote on it.
And when I say data centers, I should be saying commercial data centers.
Yeah, I think much like the BES, there is a size when you're, because I don't know if you're gonna talk to the bit mining separately or if that's part of this,
Actually, if I thought we could throw them both together,
because it's one of those
they're
where,
basically the same kind of machine, and they are just just a nuisance. And in my opinion, the people have already voted on such a subject, and it was a resounding, we do not want this kind of stuff in our city.
I think it's where, size matters and defining what commercial is, because you could have, a home data center or a home Bitcoin mining of, 20, 100 machines and nobody'd notice. But if you have a major facility, those are the dangerous ones. So, I'm not sure if that's a zoning needs to define it, or if that's where I think there needs to be a definition so that it's clearly understood. Yeah, if you want a Bitcoin mine in your basement, go for it, but giant facility getting put in town, I think that's where the goal is to not have one of those. So that would be my suggestion, is we need to find what the size is that the line is drawn.
I'm not opposed to sending this to the P and Z board and have them work that.
Let me ask Brad, just for the sake of it, was it a moratorium or was it a ban?
You mean at the county?
Yes.
Moratorium.
Moratorium, 2 years.
They
I
put an
don't
end
see
date
the
on
sense
that?
in that.
Did they put an end date on that?
Yeah, they did. I think it's 2 years. We did a 24-month. With a moratorium, that's completely flexible. Week to week, you can change it. You can either extend it. Some instances, if you've made the determination you want to go with a ban, then you terminate the moratorium and go with that. So moratoriums in terms of flexibility are pretty absolute.
I would, and then my next question was, we already heard it once on the, as far as sending it to P and Z, is this something that needs to go through them and then come back?
Based on the duty that you charge them with, yeah, I suppose the answer to that would be yes, because most of those questions they're gonna contend, we should be the ones to give you input on all of that. Plus, that specialty area in terms of developing all of the knowledge and education about it usually starts there, or it should.
I mean, I feel like it's important for us not to sidestep a group that's supposed to do that. And for me, a moratorium would be fine on it, but I want to know what it is first and what they think before we put it in place. Not that I'm opposed to it. I'm just, would like to know more about it. And I feel like we have the planning and zoning for a reason, and to get it in front of them, I believe that would be an important thing to do. I mean,
We would have to actually let them know, give them a scope of what we're looking for.
right.
Otherwise, they're just
I don't want a drawn out
no.
1 year thing. I think you just bring it in front of them and get the information and go from there. I feel like that's the best route for us to go.
I think, yeah, they could offer a lot of information to the general public about what a data center really is. And by the same token, with the Bitcoin thing, I'm gonna say probably 90% of your populace don't have a clue what a Bitcoin is.
I don't. I mean, I know what it is, but
Well, kind of.
Kind of.
There's a lot of nuances.
Bitcoin
Kind of.
mining
Bitcoins.
itself.
I think that's a matter of how old you are.
Yeah.
yeah.
I think that it definitely we have a planning and zoning committee in place for a purpose, which is to define a lot of those things, which is to provide information, which is to do research, which is to hold people, whatever that might be, but if that's their job and that's what we would decide to do, then we need to let them do their job and to a full extent of their job, which means let them gather the research, let them, if that's the direction that we want to go. And if there's a bunch of people that are really passionate about that, then maybe, be part of that. But if we're saying we're gonna let them do that, then I think we owe them the respect and the time and the consideration to let them do that. to the extent of that, so that everyone gets the same information.
And put a kill date on it
Sure,
by a certain time limit.
absolutely. If we say we're gonna go that route, you know, but I think it's not very respectful of their time and their research and their, you know, to not let them do that to the full extent of their job and what we're asking them to do.
I was gonna ask Brad, at what point do the county's moratorium, for example, okay? At what point does that impinge on restraint of trade?
The ability for a viable industry to challenge always exists. They can always come in and say this is an unreasonable restraint. And, you know, it just depends on the facts and the circumstances in a given setting. I think, obviously, I have the unique insight of having sat there in terms of us drawing that moratorium for the county. I think the thought there was, let's see, how do I say this tactfully? There was at least some thought that there might potentially be some looking at within the county for a location for one. So that got someone's attention first. And then in addition to that, they wanted the exact same thing. The discussion was very consistent with what you've been saying here. We'd like planning and zoning to have the opportunity to really look at this and educate themselves and then us on it. In order to do that, we don't want them to be under the gun that someone's come in and tried to pull a permit, and that's when they start. So their thought with the moratorium, as I understand what they articulated, was let's give them a little time. If they come back in 6 months, you know, with all the answers, then, you know, we can determine whether the moratorium even needs to continue on or whether something else needs to happen. But the whole thought process, as I understand it, was to give some room to breathe and determine, okay, is this something we want to consider? I mean, does it have economic and general viability? Or is it really something that, gosh, we just don't want to deal with that in the county and we don't have the resources to produce the energy, for example, that's necessary to have a data center in place, with AI being what it is today. And certain industries really starting to look at that pretty effectively as a approach that they want for expansion and everything else, so.
Well, based on that logic, I would support a moratorium.
I would support a moratorium rather than a ban.
I would too.
I thought we were leaning towards sending this to the P and Z board.
Well, if it comes to that point, I mean,
Yeah.
once
Okay.
they've done the,
Okay.
once they've done the research and we're ready to make
So-
our decision.
So if we want to send these two, and they're really two subjects,
Yes.
even though to me, I can't tell one from the other. What motion do we need to send that to the P and Z board to put them to work on that?
Pretty much that's it.
That's it?
And do we need to do it as
We
a
need to-
moratorium? And then a separate
Let's-
measure of exploring,
You know, let's let them do the investigation and then they
and
can come and
investigating.
inform us what we need to do. Whether this is absolutely, you do not want to ever allow one of these in your area because of what they're gonna do to your groundwater, plus the power that's gotta be run to it, or, you know, it's not. We'll let them tell us.
Well, the fact of the matter is that, you know, there's some people who are really well versed in this, is what it sounds like to me. You've done your research, you may have even already have your mind made up, which is respectable. There's people like me that don't know a lot about it right now, that would appreciate either having the opportunity, now that it's been brought up, to learn more about it and have a truly, educated response, because I don't feel that I really know enough about some of the things that have been brought up. But I think that it's fair to say that there's probably many people that don't know enough about it to truly have an opinion, and I think that that's what it comes down to, and I think that not only community members like myself need to be, well-informed by this and form your own thoughts and feelings and opinions, and not, just like you said, a lot of information comes across that may not always be, reputable. I mean, I don't know. And so, but I think our P and Z, you know, need to have that opportunity as well. And I really think that, you know, going through what I feel like I went through, I'm just gonna be honest, I don't feel like they got I just don't feel like they got the respect that they really deserved during that to do their job. They were asked to do something and then kind of the rug pulled out from under them. Whether or not people ended up being for it or not felt like that to me. And so I'm fine with this, but then I think that everyone owes them to do the job to a full extent of that job, whatever that may be. And that's just my thoughts on that.
Brad, let me, if we were to, just because we pass a moratorium doesn't mean we can't come back and revisit it after they bring their stuff. Is that
Correct.
correct?
Yeah, you have the ability, with a moratorium, again, that's something that you can put in place and retract, rescind immediately. If you decided, oh, we don't need that. So you have the ability in terms of that flexibility. You also have the ability to go the other route and simply directing it to them and not doing anything with the moratorium until they get back with you. Or if it's going to extend for quite a while and you feel like, oh, there's a potential, there's some risk, you literally, with a couple of days' notice so that we could draw it appropriately, can pass that moratorium at any meeting at any time. So
Call a special meeting or something, we can do it.
you could.
But it wouldn't necessarily make a difference if we say if we passed one, I'm gonna use next meeting or a month from now, and just put it in place, and then we come back, and once the P and Z gives us their info, then we can come back and.
Correct.
And
Well,
rescind
that's a
it
reason.
if the time comes, even if it's 2 years from now. Is
Yeah,
that
the
correct?
reason for the moratorium
Yeah.
is to give them the time they need to figure out what this is,
Well,
what
that's,
impact it's gonna have.
I don't want it to
and it's
affect
something we wanna-
their,
If it's something we wanna put on that concrete slab over there behind the library.
yeah, I don't want to, I mean,
Seriously.
Well, I hadn't thought of that, but
I just want the options, best options, and I want them to be able to, as a planning and zoning, I want them to be able to do their task. And then if we feel better to have a moratorium in place until they do their path, just like the county did, I feel comfortable with that as well.
Well, that would, as I understand it,
my take.
Nathan can correct me, that would preclude anyone then coming in to apply for a special use permit if there's a moratorium on data centers. Is that accurate?
Correct. I mean,
Okay.
you wouldn't have the issue you had with BES where you have an active development going on. I mean, with
This is
the
not,
BES ban in place, you're not gonna have a data center project. Nor do I think that Evergy has, you know, a rate structure that is favorable to that in our area. So I think we're solving an issue that's not an issue for our community at present. But again, I mean, it's forward thinking, and to those points of, you know, a Bitcoin mine could go in because somebody could be willing to pay, you know, commercial rate electric, or, I mean, the state is still weighing out data center incentives at the taxation level, and they are very different than BEST because there is physical structure and equipment and things. So, I mean, a moratorium is your safest bet at that point to basically make it clear that you're not going to entertain any project of the sort. Other than that, it very much gets into saying, hey, somebody can come forward and propose this as a project, and it most likely would fall under special use, you know, in a commercial or an industrial area, just based off of what language we do have in our zoning code. So the moratorium definitely gives breathing space that you're not going to be trying to develop rules or regulations, but then I would also say, from a planning and zoning standpoint, you need to give them direction because they're concerned with land use. They're not just a general research body about whether data centers are good or bad. Is the land use for data centers an appropriate land use in specific zones? So do you want them to look at the entire city? Because as Roger brought up, somebody brings in, 50 PC units, puts them in their garage. Well, maybe that's louder than somebody wants, or maybe it's not. I mean, you start to get into nuance, and that's why we have different zoning districts of residential versus commercial versus industrial. And so to me, that we kind of saw, and that was one of the frustrations with how it took, is it was a very much just develop some best regulations, but that was the only guidance they got. And then, there was no end cap, there was no, until it was, you had a development also wanting to say, hey, at some point, are there going to be regulations or not? You can't just keep this in a research phase ad nauseum. So,
Did the county define a size?
No. No, and I can tell you that that might be important, because in looking at it in another county and having that discussion earlier this week, there was an almost immediate reaction and response from REA, the Rural Electric Association, that covers a lot of the ag areas of the county, like in Marion County. There already exist a number of these 1 kilowatt BESS systems. And they were like, you're killing us if you take all of that out. Yet the argument still exists that whether it's a small one or a large one, the risks that were identified wouldn't really be materially different. So what do you weigh in and what do you do?
Well, and in more to this, with the data mining, it's where we have no idea. There might be a kid out there who's gathered up a bunch of used PCs and has been Bitcoin mining for the last 10 years.
And we don't know about it.
Right, and then all of a sudden, he's like, broke
an
the
outlaw.
rules. Yeah, so it's where, that's where I wonder if we need to immediately define a certain size while this is looking, because, somebody could be just doing this in their basement. Do we say commercial grade? Do we say 200 computers while this is being looked at?
Or do we just, because right now we have a totally worthless noise ordinance. It has no numbers on it, no definition to it. And I guess that would fall into what the building code that the P and Z would develop for the scope of building one. It would also include how noisy it could be. And, apparently that's something that needs to be addressed citywide.
Or do we just grandfather it in? If somebody's got some little data mine in their basement and it's not bothering anybody, moratorium on anything
Oh,
new.
we'll probably never know about it.
A lot of rooms at that old hospital.
Oh, yeah, that's another wonderful thought. Because these things are noisy and they take,
When you start gathering a
huge amount of
huge bunch
water.
of them together.
you know. Okay,
P and Z?
do I need to just ask for a consension to send it to the P and Z for building codes to be developed for data centers and Bitcoin mines in a commercial grade?
I think they can do that one by consensus if they want to do just for instruction. Or
With
we
zoning
can formalize it.
considerations.
should probably formally.
Yeah, that's probably right. I would do it by motion.
Okay,
Just
we're
formalize
looking
it.
for a motion for that. Do we have a motion to send it to the P and Z board?
I make a motion to send it to the P and Z.
Do I have a second? All those in favor say aye and raise your right hand.
Aye.
Very good. All those against? That carries. And along with that, I would ask, I'll assign you some homework to spend a couple of hours on the internet looking up what the heck these data centers and Bitcoin mines are and how they have affected towns like ours, where they've come in and built them and people's lives are just ruined because of the noise. Their wells all go away because of the amount of water they suck out of the ground. This is something that you really need to go home and spend a couple hours and study this.
And for people who don't understand that, the basics is you're gathering so many computers together that are running hot. You need to cool them. And the most efficient way with large quantities is to cool them with water. And so those water systems, not only is it using huge amounts of power from the power grid, but they really do use huge amounts of water, and it taints the water. And so it can overwhelm a city's systems, their water treatment plants. Plus it dries aquifers, dries lakes.
It drops the aquifer down so far that people that,
'Cause
they've had wells that are limping along, now they don't have water for their house.
The big ones are really pretty staggering how much damage they do.
It's quite the subject.
Brad, could we get an example of what the county passed for a moratorium?
Yeah. I can bring that.
I think that would be informative for
Talking
all,
about the
for all of
moratorium
us.
resolution?
Yeah, if we could just get a copy, I think
Yeah,
that would
just have Julie send that out to us all.
be prudent that we all look at that, just see what it says.
Good idea.
Would you like that sent to the planning and zoning commission as well?
Yes.
Okay. Talk to Ethan, and what I'm looking for next is a consensus from the council to have the spec building listed with a realtor for sale.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Sure.
So it's been shown to people, so there's interest, but no serious interest?
It'll be a discussion item later regarding, but yes, it's been shown. And it's on the lowest system, so it is available to any realtor, has access to the listing as well. I mean, it knows that it's a commercially available property.
So it's on Zillow now?
It's not on Zillow, it's on the lowest system, which is location one. It's specific to commercial and industrial properties in the state of Kansas. It's where most things are listed that aren't
It's been on there for
1 year.
1 year, so people have had access to view it if they were searching.
Yeah, like if you're a realtor and somebody said, most realtors, I believe, would probably check that.
Have any realtors shown it that we're aware of?
Not to my knowledge.
Really feel like we just need to get it out there on the realty market where it's gonna be seen, and
What would be different
Hopefully.
about listing it that way versus what we're currently doing?
you would have to specifically go looking on that website to find it. Versus if you just said, commercial buildings, central Kansas, on any realtor's site, if it's listed with a realtor, it'd pop up.
Ethan, do you see any pitfalls in going with a realtor?
Well, don't we have to
commission.
pay a realtor to do that?
You know, you got commission.
Fees.
They
When you
would,
sell,
they take
not to take it,
percentage.
and,
What we're doing now, we don't pay
Yeah.
somebody to do that.
We have no fees, and because of the potential economic development, conversation that can be had in terms of using, price point or any of that as incentive, having a spot point where, most realtors want to know exactly how much you want to sell it for, no matter what. And the initial conversations about it were,
And can't anybody list their own, stuff on a Zillow website or something similar to a realtor website?
I believe you can do, yeah, for sale by owner on a lot of those sites. I've never really looked into it, but we would have to get more information on that.
Do, is there any conflict with I know that we kind of got some funds for that one. Is there any conflict with listing it that way? I just, from a legal point of view, I'm just making sure.
No, there wouldn't be any limit there.
No, I mean, then nothing stops us from calling up
And I believe
JP Wygand Commercial or whomever and saying, hey, we have this property and would you list it for us?
And as of this year, I understand that we can now negotiate how much we're gonna pay the realtor as a percentage. So you're not stuck at what they decide.
So aside from commissions, you don't really see any other pitfalls going with the realtor?
No, it would just, depending on, I mean, you still, I guess, have all those conversations when it actually comes to sale and negotiating a contract. It's just, yeah. I would think a commercial realtor is probably gonna, we can sit down and meet with them and I guess set those parameters. Cause somebody might be looking for that building for a very different reason than I guess what you would want to sell it for. So.
Be nice to get it off the books. We're paying taxes, electrical, heat. Maybe get a business in there. That'd be wonderful.
So it's one of those, I don't know enough about commercial properties and the real estate market. Do we first want to bring one in, talk to them, see what their percentage is, and then go from there, and then we can decide, okay, yeah, we'll have them listed for a year. I'd suggest that. That way we know what we're getting into.
And they normally will appraise it for you. They'll tell you, this is what we think it would sell for.
Right.
Which could be a shock one way or the other.
Do we need a motion or a consent on that?
I would do it as a motion again.
I'd motion that we explore with a realtor and discuss with them selling the spec property.
Have a second?
Okay.
And all those in favor, say aye and raise your right hand.
Aye.
That carries. And the last thing I wanted to talk about is something that I have not had one person talk about how happy they were with it. But it's our contract with a code enforcement officer to do the job that our deputies used to do. And last month, we had 11 infractions. That means you're paying $100 an infraction. This month, it'd probably be a lot less. And the next month, because there's just nothing going on in the wintertime. So we're paying out $12,000 a year for very little, something that our deputies have always done. And far as I know, unless someone here can tell me different, I've never heard that a deputy caused a problem on a code infraction. I would like to see that contract ended.
Ethan, what kind of, results are we getting from the independent enforcement officer?
We get monthly, we can aggregate that data for you and, bring it back in 2 weeks, but it depends on the month, as the mayor pointed out. There were, I believe, 11, violations or, cases that were being worked in December. There were 22 in November. It varies, and then obviously going and controlling month to month, because some of those are gonna be carryover and
In a similar
So on.
month last year, when the officers were doing it, what did November, you probably don't have this number, but are we seeing, increased numbers in code enforcement sightings with this new fellow rather than with our officers?
yeah, we would have to pull that data. To give you an honest assessment of that.
Now I went around knocking on doors like I did with this Besta. And I almost got 50% on this. The people didn't want to spend the money for it, or people, it really bothered them to see a police officer, and it just, their anxiety just went through the roof. And so my thinking is, you know, if we're getting more results and things are getting cleaned up more with this code enforcement, and it's dropping the anxieties of the citizens, there might be a trade-off there.
Not in my book for $12,000 a year. I mean, maybe we can take some of that $12,000 a year and have a pizza party with our deputies so people can get to know them.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it kind of makes me wonder if you're only talking a few people with anxiety when the officer comes and says, hey, you know, neighbors have complained about this or whatnot, versus the anxiety, this truck drives down the street, because I see it on Facebook, everybody's like, hey, he's out, he's on this
That is the one item I've heard,
Well, I can
without
tell
my
you
input, I've heard just negative and negative.
that you're absolutely gonna hear more negative things. Absolutely. Because that's what people talk about. There's nobody gonna be out here telling you, woohoo, thank God, my neighbor cleaned up his crap. Like, nobody's doing that. Like, everyone likes to get loud on social media about all the negative drama they like to stir up. Like, of course that's what you hear. Of course that's what's the loudest. That's why nobody gets told they're ever doing a good job. Heavens forbid we ever tell anybody they're doing something good. So yeah, let's get rid of it.
I would like to see some numbers before we make that decision tonight. If like just whatever whatever you can, like last year, October, November, and just see what it looks like compared to this year.
I'd like to hear from the chief.
I'm sorry?
Well, I guess a couple things I would highlight is, right now, good comparison might be hard to get because we haven't been engaged in a full year with this, and we're just now coming into the busy time of year. I can tell you that, I have to pull numbers obviously, but April, I think it was March or April, one of the two, the PD, when we were still doing it, we served over 55 letters for violations in 1 month. So take into account, if you're gonna divide that, okay, well, 55 divided by 1,000. It's not that simple though, because for each violation, you have an officer who has to take his time and drive the city, spot the violation. Then we have to come back to the office. A letter has to be done. Then the officer has to go back and serve that letter. Well, then if it's not in compliance, the officer then has time to go follow up on that letter. If it's not done, now he has to do a citation. The citation goes to court. Now you're paying for the officer to do the case, present in court for overtime. So there's more than just that initial, hey, we spotted a violation. So it's more complex than that, in my opinion.
But isn't it true that if something's going to court, he can't help us anyway?
No, that's not true, actually. We will still write the citation. However, he presents the case.
Testify.
He testifies. He has all the documentation. I can tell you from my personal experience, this is just me, one positive I have seen is, like George mentioned, when we had it, my phone rang nonstop. Police are picking on me. Don't you have better things to do? You're being nitpicky. The city's just out to get me, out for my money. Since he took over, we haven't had those calls because it's an outside person who's not tied to us. I see it as positive. That's just my opinion. Obviously, you guys are the decision makers. We will go forward with whatever policy you guys decide. That's our job. But I will say that with this, every time, you're like, okay, they're out doing patrol, they can look for it. Correct. Problem with that is that's not a normal function a police officer usually does. They're not driving through alleys, looking, okay, how many cars are in that backyard? Are they on jacks? Their main focus is, I'm out patrolling. Preventative patrol, trying to drop crime, traffic enforcement, that kind of thing. So even though we can do it, it's a secondary function. So I don't think they're able to put as much time into it as the contract guy, that's all he's doing. That's just my thoughts. I can put more together with Ethan and yeah, we can talk about it more, but that's just my general feeling on
Thanks, Chief.
it.
Thank you.
Okay.
I think it's really important to keep in mind that we want people to trust and love our police officers and police department and not fear them. That's one thing that I think this country has really gone downhill is how they look at police officers.
That's exactly where I'm seeing this from. That's exactly, thank you. It's exact, what have we seen on TV? We don't need any more help having that happen. You know, and you had mentioned when you were running for mayor that you wanted to see unnecessary costs. I've been really searching and I can't think of very many unnecessary expenditures that we have as a city. Everything I mean, we don't have any if you had to label something as fluff, this might be one of the very few things that we have as a city that is maybe fluff, but I mean, so I think we do a real good job of watching out for the community's money. I really do. I can't think of very many issues where we're just spending money willy-nilly and we shouldn't be doing it. Can't think of it. If you know, tell me.
I know when we went through this the first time, I talked to Gary Warner, who's an instructor, was an instructor at the training center in Hutch. Is this an area that they trained our officers? He didn't laugh at me, but he smiled. They're not. This is not what they're trained to do. But it's something we found easy and comfortable. So, oh, you're not doing it, just, yeah, do this. Well, unless you know what doing this means, it can get pretty intensive for a law enforcement officer.
You know, there was another issue where, again, with relations with citizens and officers, and we had one issue a while back where we had some young individual, there was something going on in town, and he was out there with his cell phone trying to record it and trying to make history. And that's all, you know, we don't need that stuff. We don't need that. And again, I'm glad you brought it up because that is so important.
I appreciate the chief's comments and I look forward to hearing from Ethan on the numbers. Cause this is one of those things where it's a good example in my head of here's where I'm at, but you learn more and it can kind of shift where you're going. And it's just important to get all the information and then we can have a good discussion and educated decisions.
It's a big picture. It's a big umbrella.
Mm-hmm. That's why we discuss them.
One of the things that, and we've notated it a little bit here tonight, and several people brought it up, is we don't do things to make the highlight reels on the social media page. We do things to best serve our community and our citizens. And code enforcement, I know from fire code enforcement, things, sometimes people is not gonna be happy with what you come up with. I've had that scenario several times just in my job. I think we, yes, every dime we spend is important. and I agree with that, but I think you gotta give it a little bit of a chance. I didn't vote on the last one because it happened to be a meeting I wasn't at, so I didn't get in on the, when we decided to go that direction. I just wasn't here on that particular meeting. I would like to see what the figures are and see if it is prudent for us, and if it is working, and if it's the best solution or not the best solution, but I would sure, I don't want to decide tonight.
No.
And if I had to decide tonight, then it wouldn't be in favor of doing away with what we have right now, just because I don't know. Yeah, I've read the same stuff that you read. Yeah, it's easy to
Oh,
see,
they
but,
personally come tell me.
but unpopular items like code enforcement, hey, you need to mow your grass, or hey, you need to get rid of your junk cars, is not popular. It's never gonna be popular. And people are not gonna like it, and they're gonna voice their opinion on it.
Nobody moved to Halstead to live in an HOA.
No,
So I'm
They're here
curious
for
what-
the
what the
small
infractions
town
are
lot.
too.
yeah.
Cause it's one
That's,
thing if
that's,
it's,
that's a really good point.
if
Is
it's
we,
nitpicky, but.
what
or
are
if
the
it's- if it's-
infractions
yeah.
for?
We have all of that information, so
In 2 weeks? Okay.
should be able to compile that for you pretty quick.
Thank you all for such a good discussion. And
Roger had the discussion item.
not yet. We've got an executive
No
session
removal?
to do.
Yeah, well, and we can do that in the comments too,
Okay.
wherever we're on. Okay.
We have an executive session.
You want me to read it?
Yes, please.
You're it.
Cause I'm sitting in the magic.
Yeah, you're in the
magic
next
chair.
seat.
Right,
why
so
Jim
you let me know if I mess this up. So I move that the Halstead City Council recess into executive session to discuss the potential expansion plans of a private corporation in the city of Halstead. And then I just skip down to the bottom.
Pursuant to,
Oh, I need to, okay.
There you go.
Pursuant to the confidentiality data relating to financial affairs or trade secrets of corporations, partnerships, trusts, and individual proprietorships exemption, KSA 754319B4, and ask that the addition to the governing body, the following persons join the governing body in executive session: the city manager and the city attorney. The open meeting and governing body to reconvene in the city council chambers at 8:30 PM.
You did it. Get used to it.
Where do we want to meet?
We have to vote on it.
vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We are back in session. And our next would be governing body comments. We'll start on the right hand with George. What are your thoughts?
Stay warm and be safe.
Good idea.
Anything else?
Nothing for me.
I'm disappointed.
I don't have anything this evening.
I didn't really get out in the city much, but it appeared that our roads got plowed. But I didn't go around the town. That's about all I got.
I'll pass.
All right, well, I was just wondering about, because, you know, it was a storm that was not as bad as I think a lot of us were planning, but I think it's also, this is a good run when we're talking about dump trucks and stuff and plows. I'm really curious how things went, and I guess I'm looking back at Pat, like, what did he think? And, because the only comment I heard was Main Street was a bit sloppy, a little longer than folks wanted. Like Sixth Street cleaned up real nice, but Main Street has just got that, it's hard to do. And I don't know if right, it's brick, there's no place to really put the snow, and it stayed sloppy longer. And I don't know if there's better, what we can do, if that has anything to do with the plows, or is this a good opportunity to look and say, hey, maybe not one big truck, but two small trucks? Or do we need to discuss, hey, do we need to bring in more outside folks to come do this? I just,
Where on Main Street, more specifically downtown or the whole length of Main Street?
I never got out there.
Because I can see where it would be an issue because a lot of it's in shade. It doesn't get direct sunlight, whereas Sixth Street would, you know what happens, it melts and it gets clear.
Right.
I think further that way, in front of my house, I did have more slush. And if I came down this way, where it had more direct sunlight, I saw it was a little bit thinner. So I think that might be an issue, is when it stays in the shade, it's gonna hang around longer.
What we gotta remember on this storm is nothing that you throw on it's going to help it melt. Because it's too cold. It just doesn't melt.
Did we have the use of the new truck?
No.
No,
I didn't know if it was here yet or not.
it's not here yet. So. And I work for Health Ministries, so I drive Newton streets quite a bit. Their downtown was exactly the same way as our downtown was. Exactly. They pushed everything to the center, and when they picked it up, there was still the slush in the center, and if the sun didn't hit it, it didn't melt. So ours wasn't much different than what Newton was, and for the first, especially through the weekend.
Right.
I mean, it was too cold, nothing melted. And then finally, when you got a little sun and it kicked in, it was better. So,
Okay. I just wanted to, it's worth talking, and if folks at home are
sure.
wanting to know, that's where I was just curious what folks thought and whatnot. But other than that, I really have nothing else.
Snow removal is one of those super difficult things, because if it's a sloppy, wet snow, that's a whole nother story. This one was really perfect, because it was so fluffy and cold.
Nice and dry.
It was easy
You
to
don't have
move.
my job.
I got on my big old snow blower and it just went.
Hey, let me tell you, Gary.
Okay,
How about 7 o'clock in the morning on Sixth Street, standing out there with a sign?
on to the city manager.
Not a lot, just want to thank Pat and his guys for the time they did put in over the weekend in that storm response and dealing with the realities of clearing snow in that kind of cold weather, and trying to do our best not to create issues by having the melt refreeze immediately and whatnot. So just appreciate, as I know a lot of the guys were in over the weekend, to to respond to that. Other than that, it's largely been getting caught up and continuing to talk with consultants on the projects. We're hopefully nearing easements that we'll be able to put out on the North Street and get those formalized and approved. And we are meeting with the grant consultant on the process for Lehman Park, now that there's a little more indication of what grants might be open to assist with funding there. And we had our initial meeting with our Safe Streets for All grant, and that again was essentially just saying, congratulations, you got it, and you will have a federal point of contact on this grant that will reach out to you in the coming weeks and give you more instructions. So other than that, Julie and her staff were busy with auditors being here for their field work. They finished up early, so just kudos to Julie and her team for helping the auditors get in and get out pretty quick this year. So not a lot to report other than snow response and things of that nature that you all are aware of. So
Very good. Bring this meeting to an adjournment.
Mr. Mayor, I move to adjourn.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Very good.